This evening we're going to talk about charter schools understanding the educational alternative. You know, there's so much talk going on right now about charter schools, what they are, what they're not, whether they're good, whether they're bad. Have they destroyed the local public system, or are they providing better education for our children? We're going to talk about that a little bit this evening, and we're going to talk about it from the standpoint of really delving into what the charter schools are. You know, I could be wrong, but I really believe that the majority of the people out there, mostly parents, don't really understand what charter schools do. There's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of miscommunication. But on Words to Action, we're all about taking words to action and ensuring that our audience is informed. So we want to talk a little bit about charter schools this evening. Now, one of the things that is very interesting is there was an article in a magazine called Smart Money. This article talked about 10 things charter schools won't tell you. So I want to talk a little bit about those, and I want to kind of go down that list because I think it will provide an excellent foundation for our guests to talk about, to dispute, to agree with, to say, nah, that's not the case, or, you know, I was just about to tell you about that. So let's talk about that a little bit. In the 10 things, it says, number one, that one of the things that the charter schools won't tell you is that we're no better than public schools. Number two, that our teachers aren't certified. I think it will be a very interesting conversation when we start talking about this whole issue of certification. Because one of the things that I happen to know, having served on the school board, is that there are a lot of teachers, even in public school settings and in private school settings, that are not certified. So we'll try to dig into that a little bit. They keep quitting. There's a very high turnover rate with charter schools. Why is that? We'll talk about that. Students with disabilities need not apply. That's a biggie. Anymore nowadays, there are so many children that have disabilities, physical disabilities, and then those that are classified. So if you have a child that's classified, is a charter school for you? And then when you start thinking along the fact that so many of our African American children, so many of our Latino children are classified easily and very quickly, then are charter schools for minorities and people of color? I don't know. We'll talk about it. It also talks about, in this article, it says, we found a loophole in the separation of church and state. I don't even know what loophole they're talking about, but according to this article, charter schools operate on a loophole. Well, today, we have as our guest the CEO of the New Jersey Charter School Association. We're going to ask him about that. We don't need to tell you where our tax money is going. You know, one of the things that we have heard a lot about is that with charter schools, there is no fiscal accountability. Is that true? Is that something we need to worry about? We'll talk about that. We'll do anything to recruit kids. And then number 8, but we'll push them out if they don't keep up with the curriculum. Number 9, success can be bought. If you take a look at some of the best charter schools around the country, they are charter schools that are very well funded. So what does that mean? Does that mean that charter schools that are not well funded are not going to be successful? And then number 10, even great teachers can only do but so much. This is an excellent starting point for us. It gives us a great springboard into a conversation about charter schools and whether or not they are a good alternative for your child. And maybe not even for your child, but for the children of your community. So here today we have Carlos Perez. Carlos is the CEO of the New Jersey Charter School Association New Jersey Charter Schools Association. He joined that organization in 2010. Prior to that, he was with the Illinois Network of Charter Schools, and then prior to that, he was a political organizer. Our guest this evening, the CEO of the New Jersey Charter School Association, is going to debunk some of those accusations, and he's going to talk about whether or not charter schools make sense for those of us in academia. Carlos, welcome to Words to Action. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Carlos, obviously you're the CEO of the New Jersey Charter Schools Association, which obviously I'm guessing deals a lot with charter schools.
Everything with charter schools.
Everything, okay. So I think that one of the first places I want to start with you is a very, very basic question. And that question is, what exactly is a charter school?
Great. Well, first of all, thank you, Ken, for having me on the program. I appreciate the invitation. I appreciate to be here with you in the community to talk about charter schools. And I also appreciate that question of what is a charter school. often we get into political debates and jump right into the debate of charter schools good or bad. And I realize oftentimes that people don't even know what a charter school is when they're having these debates. So first of all, a charter school is a public school. It is open to all students in the community who wish to attend. It's tuition free. And it's a school that is free from any of the it's free from any of the local rules because it's not part of the district. And that freedom allows the educators in the building to create an innovative and new type of curriculum that holds students and teachers accountable for improved student results.
So let me back up for just 1 second, because you said something that quite honestly threw me a little bit. So you said that a charter school is a public school?
Correct. It is
Really?
a type of public school. Here in the state of New Jersey, the State Department of Education is an entity that approves them, and they use public dollars, and they're approved by the state. So it's one of the types of public schools. Just as we have vocational schools, we have magnet schools, we have traditional district schools, we have neighborhood schools. Another type of school is a charter school.
Okay. So then, as a public school, is it part of the public school system?
It is a part of the state. So the State Department of Education, New Jersey Department of Education, is part of their portfolio of schools that they provide. They're just not part of the district.
Okay.
So the local district runs those schools. The charter school is not run by the district. The charter school is independently run from the district.
Okay, so and I want to get into that a little bit, because that's if you heard the top 10 things that I talked about a little bit, and it probably
Yes.
you probably fidgeted a little bit. You're like, oh God. But I want to get into that in a second. But and I want to kind of go back to this whole issue of what is a charter school. Are there different kinds of charter schools?
The interesting thing about charter schools is there are no two charter schools that are alike.
Okay.
We have various types of different charter schools, and that's the beauty of the school. What makes charter schools unique is that they are unique.
Okay.
If that makes any kind of
Sure.
weird sense. Each charter school has its own mission, and they have a way to get the improved student achievement, or they have their own mission, and based on that mission, the educators in that building design the way to educate those kids. And various different communities have different populations and different needs, so various charter schools are very different. Oftentimes they look and feel a lot like the community, so that the educators in that building can do what's best for those particular kids in that school.
So, I mean, obviously you're a big proponent of charter schools, and so you no doubt understand them more than most everyday people. But when you say that everyone is unique, they're all different kinds, doesn't that make it very difficult to then regulate charter schools?
It does, and it doesn't. The challenge with, well, I guess I can give another example. Since there are several different types of charter schools, you can have different types. You can have charter schools that focus on college prep. You can have charter schools that focus on the arts.
Really?
You can have charter schools that will focus on community engagement.
So they're that specific?
They're that specific, so they have a particular mission. And in all states, including in New Jersey, they have to take a lot of the same state tests. They actually have to take all of the same state tests. So because they have to take all the same standards and tests.
I'm sorry, who has to take the test? The
charter
students?
School, the students in the charter school have to take NJS.
Okay.
And because of that, that's a way to hold a school accountable, because you're able to evaluate the school based on its performance. And one of the really, really unique things about charter schools, which I personally like, is the way that you mentioned regulation, the way that we look and evaluate a charter school. For far too long, we evaluate public education through regulations and counting all of the inputs.
Right.
What goes into the building. What we don't
That's
do
very true, yeah.
is look at what's coming out of the building.
Right.
So how are the students performing in that school? And so because of all the uniqueness of charter schools, that difficult measure, what you end up having is an evaluation of the school that looks at what's coming out. In other words, are the students in this building learning?
Okay.
And if they're not learning, then we need to hold that school accountable because they're not doing their job.
So I think it was last week perhaps, there was a report card that came out. Are you familiar with the report card that came out? And one of the things, kind of as we're leading up to this show, is I looked at the report card and I wondered to myself, will I find any charter schools on this list? So would charter schools get reported on that list?
Then the report card that went out includes charter schools.
Okay.
And the reporting, the items that are reported for the charter schools are the exact same as are reported for every other school.
So then that kind of flies in the face of some of the rhetoric that you hear, that charter schools are not regulated and that they kind of just do their own thing.
I think that, yes, the quick answer is yes, there is the evaluation. A lot of them do their own thing, but if their own thing is doing what's right for kids, then I'm fine with that.
Okay.
And the evaluation, though, that information is out there. You mentioned earlier in the top 10 list the funding and the evaluation of fundings.
Right.
Charter schools have to produce their reports to the State Department of Education, and their funds have to be looked at.
Really?
Yes. So these are public dollars that are being spent, so it has to be spent in accordance with state law.
And I'm glad I have you here, because that is absolutely not what you hear in the community. You hear in the community that charter schools come in, there's no oversight over the dollars, they can do anything they want, and people are absconding with millions of dollars right and left. But they're not, they're actually having to report things in then.
Correct, they do have to report. And just like we talked about before with student outcomes, again, financial outcomes, how are the dollars being spent in the building? The unique thing for charter schools is the school leader determines, and the school and the board determine the budget for that school. So that way, how we allocate dollars within the building, those decisions are being made at the school level.
Okay.
So an example for this is if a school, it's an example I know of, a school's in an urban community, and a lot of times you say you have to have a metal detector in your building, and we're going to force you to purchase a metal detector in your building. But if the school gets to decide how they're going to spend dollars, they can say, maybe we don't want to buy a metal detector and pay for security. Instead, we're going to hire 4 counselors and teach a culture of peace in this school. And now we're going to allocate our dollars to teach a culture of peace as opposed to purchasing metal detectors. And that way the school can now align its mission and align its practice to the mission of that school.
And a charter school has that capability,
Exactly.
that option, if you will.
That freedom.
We're going to get into that in a little bit, but talk to me for just 1 second about how does a parent, where do they go to find out information on a local charter school and what their focus is, what their outcomes are, and those kinds of things?
That's a great question. First of all, you can go to our website, njcharters.org. We have information about all the 80 charter schools in the state of New Jersey on our website. And you can also look for the charter schools in your community and pick up a phone and give them a call. I think that's extremely important for communities to begin that empowerment of deriving where do we want education. I give 3 things to talk to parents, or 3 tasks for folks when you're looking at a charter school. One is ask for a tour. Parents should be able to ask and go and visit the tour and go to a meeting if they want to go to it, or go to an open house if the school has that. And then one thing that a lot of our schools are very, very open about is having a school leader or a teacher there answer questions.
Okay.
So it's extremely important. One thing that we see a lot is a lot of parents want to send their kid to a safe school.
Right.
And instead of asking the question, is this school safe? For parents to ask the question, how do you make this a safe environment?
Okay.
And then listen to what the school leader has to say. If the charter school is not giving you an answer that's not comfortable for you, then maybe that's not the right school for you. But if you hear what they're saying, and you believe what they're saying is right for you, then that might be a school that's important for you and your family to enroll your child into.
So a parent can call, number 1, they can go to njcharterschools.org.
njcharters.org.
Okay, njcharters.org.
The Department of Education website has a list of them as well.
Okay. And if there is a charter school that is not on there, what does that mean? If somebody says, I have a charter school in my area, or come to Billy Bob's charter school,
right,
and they look on the list and it's not there, then
they need to be worried.
Okay, they need to be worried. Okay, great. All right, so they can go there, or they can pick up the phone and they can call and call the local school and ask for a tour and go in and actually have an opportunity to see the people there.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think the decision to choose a school is sometimes fairly complex, but it's also fairly easy. If it passes the eyeball test, if you would want to go to that school, it might be a good school for you to send your child to.
Great. Well, listen, there's a few more questions and kind of a different direction we want to go in, and and some of the things that you've talked about, because you've given me a lot for us to talk about, and we definitely want to go in that direction.
Wonderful.
So, Carlos, one of the things that I think is very interesting that I hear people talking a lot about is about this whole issue of certificated staff and whether or not teachers are certified. And I don't know, and forgive me, I'm not into education like you are, but I don't know if that's tied at all into accreditation, if there's such thing as accreditation. So talk for a minute about this whole issue about teachers being certified and about charter schools being accredited.
Sure thing. So the first part, those are 2 separate things. So I can quickly answer the charter schools being accredited.
Sure.
In almost all states, the term is called authorized.
Okay.
So the State Department of Education in New Jersey authorizes charter schools, and they give them a 5-year charter to exist.
Okay.
So every 5 years, that charter school comes up for renewal, and so then they're reauthorized every 5 years.
Okay.
And then at the end of that 5 years, there's an in-depth assessment. Is the school producing?
Okay.
And if not, then they can lose that charter and then ultimately close down.
So let me go backwards for just 1 second. You talked about authorization. What goes into them becoming authorized?
A whole lot.
Okay.
A whole lot.
So it's not just, I have a school, I want to teach this, give me a charter and let me go do it.
No, generally speaking, if you have all of your ducks in a row and you've got a good team behind you, the fastest you can probably do this is 18 months.
Okay.
Is your process to get approved. It generally takes much longer to do that. It's a significant checklist that you have to go through. You have to have a strong board of directors. You have to have strong education background. You have to have strong legal background. You're essentially starting a public school, a nonprofit, and a business all in one.
Wow.
And the very first day of business, you're going to have hundreds of kids in your building, so you need to be prepared on day one to execute your mission. So there's a lot of work that goes into leading up to that. And it's a significant lift that schools need to go through. We find that most people who have an idea for a charter school simply just don't have the capacity to run a school. So there's really two things involved. Is you have to have a strong idea, a strong team, but you have to show that you have the capacity to actually implement on that idea.
So Carlos, let me ask you this then, because I have to tell you, you're totally opening up my eyes to charter schools. Why is it that your everyday person isn't getting this information? Why don't the me's of the world know this?
I think there's a significant amount of misinformation. I think there's also a significant amount of lack of information, and unfortunately it's taking you and I a bit of a longer conversation. Most people want to get their information in a 30-second soundbite. We don't have opportunities to have a longer conversation to get into some of the details. But one thing, the biggest thing folks need to know is that they're public schools, they're open to kids in the community, and they're open to all students who wish to attend.
Okay.
They cannot set any sort of criteria to block the students from coming in or anything. So that's other piece of information. As for why it's out there,
Let me interrupt you for a second, because I'm going to say what I know you don't want to. The reason is the public schools are sabotaging them. That's why.
I'll let you say that.
And I say that in jest, but isn't it in fact true that most local school districts are not really thrilled about a charter school coming into their area?
I think by and large that's true.
You can be the political one. I'll say it.
I'll let you say it. I think we do see some local districts which do embrace charter schools. Chicago Public Schools does a phenomenal job of it. In New Orleans, New York City, they have a great part. The department there embraces charter schools as part of their portfolio of schools that they offer to the community. So it's not 100%. But a lot of times what you have are communities which have said, this is the way we've been doing things for years.
Okay.
And a charter school comes along and you're changing the way we're doing things.
Okay.
And just that change in itself ruffles feathers.
Change is difficult. So let's kind of change tracks for a second. Let's get on to the second part of that question, and let's talk for a second about the staff, the teachers, and whether or not they're certified, and whether or not that matters.
Sure. I'm glad you asked that as a two-part question. So here in the state of New Jersey, all of our charter school teachers must be certified. It's part of the state law in New Jersey.
100% of them.
100%, just as any other district.
Wow.
Our teachers need to be certified. Now, the second part of your question is that right? I argue that it's not. There's really very little correlation between certification and high performance.
Okay.
Let's take, for example, Camden Public Schools, which for years and years have to have 100% of their teachers certified. But 23 out of the 26 public schools in Camden are considered failing public schools. So what ultimately matters here? Is it matters that all of the teachers are certified, or does it matter that only 3 out of those schools are doing well?
Okay.
Ultimately, what matters is how are you producing for kids, and that's what we need to look at.
Okay.
And then also on the certification issue, if you take someone like Bill Gates, if Bill Gates wants to be able to teach computer science, and as a teacher, as a principal, I come in and I look at him and said, I think he has the chops to teach, and he knows this information. I'm going to get him in the classroom. He's not certified though, but what's to stop him from getting,
Sure.
Let's have Oprah teach theater, let's have Derek Jeter teach athletics, let's have Bruce Springsteen teach music. Let's get these people who know some issues really well and get them in the, not necessarily those folks, but
I understand.
Great experts in the area, have them into the classroom, and let's bring in industry experts from all over the world into our classrooms as frequently and as often as possible.
So when we talk along the lines of staff and teachers in the building, in your opinion, do you see a difference in the morale or a difference in the kind of mindset of staff in a charter school versus a public school? And I ask that because it seems to me a lot of times that anymore nowadays, teachers now are tasked with teaching to the test. And so it robs them of that creativity, it robs them of that natural kind of bent towards really being a teacher. So do you see any differences there?
One of the differences I see for charter school teachers, we often talk about charter schools as choice for parents or choice for students to send their child to a school that best fits their needs. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing for teachers. Mm-hmm. We talked about before, there's different types of charter schools. As an employer, you want to go to an as an employee, I guess, you want to go to an employer that best aligns with your philosophy of what that organization is. Because you have different types of charter schools, you can now find a school that has an art-infused curriculum. And if you believe that that's the right way to educate kids, you're going to gravitate towards wanting to work in that school. And if you have a school that you believe in and aligns with your philosophy, you're going to be far more excited to come into work every single day because you found that vocation that best matches your philosophy in life.
Let me ask you a philosophical question, and I don't know if you're allowed to answer this question, but there is a rise in charter schools and even the perceived need for charter schools. What is it about our public school system that is giving that rise?
So I'll put a couple numbers behind what you were talking about. We have 27,000 students, 27,000 seats in charter schools right now on 8 of our schools. We have 20,000 parents who have their children on wait lists for the charter schools in the state of New Jersey. So you're absolutely correct. 20,000 for 27,000 seats. That's almost 2 to 3 years. There's a lot. There's a significant demand for far more opportunities within charter schools, and parents are choosing to send their kids to charter schools and they want more of these options.
Okay.
And I think parents are looking for schools that I think we're starting to realize that one size doesn't fit all.
Okay.
And parents are finding different types of education that matches their needs, and that's creating that demand. Some parents want a college prep curriculum. Some parents want to have a rigorous environment. Some parents want to have a more free or open environment in the school, and they're seeing those opportunities in charter schools.
Okay. So based on what you just said, then there's nothing wrong with the public school system. It's just a change in what parents want for their kids.
I think one of the basic things that parents want for their kids is a high quality education. First and foremost, families want a high quality public education. In a lot of our areas in the state of New Jersey, we simply do not have a good enough education system.
And I'm glad you said that, because that's really my argument here. My argument is that, and I could be totally off base on this, but my argument is that one of the things that's giving rise to charter schools is the inability of the public school system to meet the needs of our kids in the future, if you will, to prepare them, I should say, for the future. But the question then becomes, if the public schools don't have the ability to do it, then why are charter schools able to do so? And I want you to hold on to that for a second, because I do want to talk about that, but I just want to kind of plant this in your mind, and there's really two questions here. Number one, why is a charter school better equipped to address or to educate children for the future? And then number two, what makes a charter school different or better than a private school? And those are two questions that I definitely want to deal with and I want to talk about in 1 second.
Absolutely.
So Carlos, you brought up some really interesting points, and as a CEO of the New Jersey Charter Schools Association, I guess it's safe to say that you are a strong proponent of charter school education over public and private. And so what I want to understand from you is, why is it that a charter school education better equips a child for the future?
The biggest difference is the charter model itself, where you have an environment where all of the important education decisions are being made at the school. So they're not made at a downtown office, they're not made in Trent, they're not made in some faraway bureaucratic office, but the major educational decisions are being made at the school. And when you do that, you allow the educators in the building to become empowered. and able to make important education-based decisions. So if something's happening in the classroom, it's not going to take 2-3 years for a correction to be made. That correction can be made in a matter of days and weeks.
Okay.
And that flexibility affords the school to serve the needs of that particular child in that particular classroom faster than any other type of public education we have.
And so it kind of, in essence, what a charter school does is it really kind of unleashes the power of educational professionals at the local level.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Said better than I could.
So what is it that makes a charter school? Why would a parent send their child to a charter school versus a private school?
I think, first of all, it's up to that parent
Sure.
to find the right. The biggest difference is many private schools have tuition and have selective enrollment criteria for the school.
Okay, so let me interrupt you really quickly. Charter schools don't have tuition?
Charter schools have no tuition by law. They cannot charge tuition.
So a parent that puts their child in a charter school does not have to pay for that?
Correct.
Really?
So it's a free public school open to anyone who wants to attend.
Now, just between you and I, and nobody's listening, but between you and I, where does the money come from?
The money, it's public dollars. So the charter school receives a per pupil allocation through public dollars, through state and local dollars. Those funds are allocated to the student based on in New Jersey, the SFRA funding formula that we have.
Okay. All right, so let me backtrack because we only have a couple of minutes left. So when you look at charter school education, you have debunked a number of myths for us today, and I really appreciate that. And I think you've taken on a lot of those 10 myths that I read in the beginning. But I just want to kind of recap for just 1 second. The fact that charter schools are actually, they don't charge a tuition, they are regulated.
Correct.
They are in fact, they do answer to someone at a state level. People who get charter schools and who start them go through a long process in order to get them up and running. They have to have qualified staff and they have to have all of their teachers certified.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Based on everything going on right now in the state of New Jersey and charter schools, what do you, as a CEO of the New Jersey Charter School Association, what are things that you, kind of solutions, if you will, to addressing the misperception of charter schools and to trying to move more kids into the charter school system and maybe even to get more charter schools?
I think those last two are one and the same. Like
Okay.
I said, we're oversubscribed for our charter schools right now, so it's not a matter of wanting to get more kids into the charter schools. That's already there.
Okay.
20,000 families want that already. It's a matter of making sure that we have enough education opportunities for kids. Our ultimate vision is that every single child in the state of New Jersey has an opportunity to attend a public school that best meets his or her needs.
Wow.
And right now, we're not there yet. And we need to continue working towards that so every child can get to a public school that is right for them. And we know that's not the case in many parts of the state.
Absolutely. Carlos, thank you so much for being my guest today on
Thank
Words
you.
to Action. I appreciate you being here. One of the things that Carlos really talked a lot about was he really talked a lot about the fact that a charter school is in fact a public school. And in fact, a lot of the misperceptions that exist out there are not necessarily well founded. One of the things we're going to do with our next guest is we're going to talk to our next guest who actually owns a charter school and talk a little bit about what motivated her to open a charter school and what are some of the challenges involved in being in the charter school business. So our next guest is Nicole Anatole, and we're looking forward to hearing everything that Nicole has to say. Carlos was an extremely interesting guest and a wealth of information. One of the things that he really brought to us is that there's a lot of information in the community about charter schools that is frankly just not true. One of the things that I want to do is I want to always on Words to Action bring guests that can straighten out information and provide information that gives you good factual basis. Our next guest, Nicole Anatole, is the operator of a charter school in New Jersey. We've invited her on because she can give a real down-to-earth opinion about exactly what it is that charter schools are like from an operator's point of view. Our next guest, Nicole Anatole, has recently been authorized to open up a charter school in Willingboro, New Jersey. We're so excited about where she's going to take her school and so excited about her being here on Words to Action. Nicole, thank you so much for being my guest on Words to Action today. So you are the operator of a charter school.
Yes.
Well, yay for you. And I guess where I really want to start this with you is what exactly inspired you to start a charter school?
Well, basically, I have young children. I have 3 young children, and I come from an educating background. So I wanted to look at the schools, and when you're an educator, you look a little differently at schools.
Sure.
There's a lot of schools that have nice teachers, but I was truly looking at where my kids could get the best education.
Okay.
And through working in many different states and seeing many different things, I found that I really wanted my kids to be in a school that had different types of approaches that I saw practiced in other states and in other places, and I just didn't find that the school districts that were around me were doing that.
Okay.
So also I had my child in preschool, and a lot of the parents were saying we need a choice, and the economy was going down, and they wanted to have a choice besides the public school system, and they couldn't afford private schools. So
Okay.
that's when I just started to look into how to start a charter school.
Okay.
And through a lot of support by a lot of parents in the community, I was able to get up and running and really get that support to get going.
So let's kind of go down that line for a moment. So what has been the toughest thing about starting a charter school?
Currently, financially.
Okay.
Right now, there is no startup money for charter schools.
Okay.
So pretty much I have been my own source of getting everything up and going.
Okay.
I've had a lot of support by my founding board as well as my board of trustees. They've been able to donate money to the school, and the community has really stepped up in supporting, offering things, saying here, you can take this and have a raffle, or
Okay.
any way that we can raise money, as well as just chipping in and just spreading the word, because that helps the advertising and everything.
So then, everything you just said really kind of speaks to the fact that a charter school is really a community school.
Yes.
With community resources.
Yes.
I know for a fact that not too long ago you were in the process of putting together a golf outing.
Yes, yes.
In an effort to raise money. I'm assuming it's because there is no funding, startup funding. Is that right?
Well, yes, definitely. And we want to make sure that we can have, there's a lot of people that were behind the scenes that really helped with the school. And a lot of people, like all hours of the night, coming to the house and going through and editing the application and just offering their expertise. And a lot of those people play golf. So.
Okay, let me go back for a second. You have people coming to your house all hours of the night?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I'm not starting a charter school, okay? I need my beauty rest. Okay, so all right, so you have all of these people chipping in. Did you actually have the golf outing yet?
We had to reschedule it because
Okay.
there's been a lot just getting everything set for the state check. So we are going to reschedule it for later on in the summer.
Okay. Definitely make sure we know when
Yes.
you reschedule it, because Words to Action would absolutely like to be a part of that.
Okay.
I'm not a great golfer, but I love to golf. But I love the fact that you're doing it for the kids. But let me ask you though about this whole concept of startup money.
Yes.
Is that kind of a Nicole Anatole thing, or is that all charter school operators face that same issue?
A lot of them do.
Okay.
Definitely, because initially a lot of charter schools are grassroots approach.
Okay.
There's certain companies that are also getting into opening a charter school, but a lot of times if you have teachers or parents that truly, and community members that truly want to open up a charter school, they might not have all the money to back it.
Okay.
But they have a lot of people that are willing to volunteer their time, but there are things that need to get paid for up front in
Sure.
order to get, everything done. So therefore, it's something that you have to raise funds for.
Okay. I find that to be remarkable because our previous guest, who is the CEO of the New Jersey Charter Schools Association, talked about how many children there are, how many parents there are, this long waiting list. Clearly, there could be more charter schools out there. It sounds like there's a need for them.
Yeah.
But then you take someone like you that has a desire to do it. And the finances become the issue.
Right.
And I find that remarkable that in the United States of America, the most powerful country in the entire world, who does not have the best educational system in the world, that people who are trying to give our kids a great education are encountering issues with resources. And I think that's really unfortunate. But let me go back for just 1 second to you. You alluded to the fact of your educational background. Talk to me for a second about your educational background.
Well, I graduated from the University of Maryland
Okay.
with a bachelor's degree in elementary education and a concentration in science. I have a K-8 cert. I hold a certification in Maryland, Virginia, and New Jersey. I also have a master's degree in social foundations of education from the University of Virginia. And then I also went back and got a supervisor certificate from Wilmington University.
Okay, okay. So, all right, so obviously with that kind of an education, with that kind of background, clearly you have what it's necessary, in my opinion, and I mean, I'm not judging from the Department of Education, and I don't know what their qualifications are, but clearly with the bachelor's and a master's in those specific areas, I would be comfortable sending my children, if I had, small children, to a charter school that had someone of your qualifications. Talk to me for a second about your staff. What are the kinds of qualifications your staff and your board has?
Well, basically for my staff, I've been very specific about picking teachers, not just teachers that want a job, the teachers that truly fit our school. We're a constructivist approach school, which pretty much means hands-on learning.
Okay, I'm glad you clarified that. I was like, you build things? What? You have bricklayers?
So
Okay.
basically, we are focused on having kind of a mixture of a core knowledge base. So there's a foundational set of skills that children need to know, as well as being able to let them learn through meaningful experiences. So we're also involved in getting out in the community, having them go and visit a lot of places, because we feel experience is key to learning.
So let me interrupt you really quickly, because I don't know if my brain is processing what you just said. So let me put it in kind of Ken Gordon terms, right? So my son is the kind of a learner that he is absolutely hands-on. And one of the things that I have always said is, you hear this whole concept of differentiated instruction, which means teaching based on the style of the child, versus where some people teach based on the style of the teacher.
Right.
Okay, so based on what you just said a second ago, are you saying to me that you kind of have a hybrid where you allow the kids that have the hands-on that they learn based on hands-on, as well as instructional? You kind of have a marriage of the two. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
okay.
And that's why with our staff it's so important that we have staff that know how to do that approach.
Okay.
And in addition to finding those staff members, we also are doing a 3-week training in the summertime to make sure that everyone is on board. We feel autonomy is great, but in the beginning, when you're starting any new organization, you need to know what works and what works well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me just ask you a quick question based on that, and I don't know if I asked this before, because frankly I'm getting old and I don't remember very well. What are the age ranges or the grades of your charter school?
Well, we are approved to kindergarten to 5th grade. We're starting kindergarten 1st and 2nd, and every year we'll be adding a grade. Okay.
Now I want to get into this whole concept of K through 2, you said, is where you're starting?
Yes.
I want to get into the concept of exactly why that is what you're doing versus a charter school of K through 12. So that's something I definitely want to talk to you about and have you help me understand that.
Okay, well basically I find as a teacher that it's very hard to come in and start K-5 right off the bat, because you have all different kids coming from all different school districts, and they could be coming in learning, knowing whatever, you don't quite know. So by starting small, you know that each child is going to build the culture, and you're going to know exactly where they started, all the teachers. It's a small community. We can discuss, okay, in kindergarten, guess what, we got all of this done, but we didn't exactly cover fractions too well. They can go to 1st grade and say, guess what, fractions is something we need to focus on. So that small community really makes the school culture build. It allows for it to be like a private school where a lot of teachers know everyone in the school, and it also is a great way to manage and grow, but everyone that you can slowly grow, and everyone's doing everything how that charter actually says we're going to be doing it.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense to me then. So Nicole, I really appreciate you kind of helping put that into perspective and helping us understand. And clearly, I can absolutely see the passion that you have for what you're doing, and I think that's a wonderful thing, and that's another reason why we wanted you, frankly, on Words to Action, because we really need to support those endeavors in our community that are doing positive things and trying to support our kids, so I applaud you for that. But let me kind of give you a moment to kind of do your own commercial here. why would a parent want to send their child to, the name of your school is?
Willingboro Academy.
Willingboro Academy Charter School.
Mm-hmm.
Why would a parent want to send their child to Willingboro Academy Charter School versus their local school district or versus a private school?
Well, basically, for a private school, we're free. So
Okay.
that's one thing. We have uniforms, just like a private school.
You do?
Yes, so.
Okay, wait a minute, hold on. Tell me about your uniform. Let's do the important stuff.
Well, we're going for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air look now. Basically, our uniforms will have a tie because there's a whole aspect to uniforms that I just thought, wow, that would look really nice, but I'm learning more and more about how uniforms really have a big impact on children and, just their sense of self-worth.
Wow. Okay.
So we're really going to be pushing that whole uniform thing. So to the outward eye, no one will be able to tell that it's not a private school.
Okay.
Now, as far as a public school, we have a ratio of 1 teacher to 15 students in each of our classrooms.
Okay.
And we are arts and technology themed school.
Arts and technology.
Yes.
Okay.
We're working on getting iPad 2s for all the children in the school, including kindergarten.
Okay.
We are doing a...
Don't you think kindergarten's a little young for iPads?
No, because a lot of preschoolers are running around with iPads. So
I think that's wonderful, by the way, and I'm being very facetious there because anymore nowadays, kids are into technology so early, so I apologize. Go ahead. So.
Oh, no, but definitely, and we are having everything in our school is to get children ready for the new future of kids. I mean, kids aren't really sitting there reading books anymore. They're on their Kindle. So we're doing everything so that not only will they know technology, but they'll also be able to be ready for the workforce. So any parent that wants to sign their child up will see that we are going far beyond. And I mean, we're doing balanced literacy, we're doing block scheduling, a lot of things that you won't normally see in many of the schools today.
Okay.
So I definitely would say if a parent is interested to check out our website. And that's www.willingboroacs.com.
Okay, now you know how this works. So,
Yes.
so
www.willingboroacs,
which stands for
Academy Charter School.
Okay, so WillingboroACS.com. All right. So a parent who's interested in their child going to your charter school would go to www.willingboro, WILLINGBOROACS.com.
Yes.
Okay. Do they have to live in a particular area?
We have to take 90% of the children at least from Willingboro School District.
All right. So for 90% of the parents out there who have children in the Willingboro public school system, or actually who live in Willingboro, right? Who live in Willingboro, they can look you up at www.willingboroacs.com.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Is there a phone number, somebody that they can call if they have questions?
Well, actually, if you call 609-479-9239, I will actually...
Whoa, you know how this goes? I'm sorry, what was that number again?
609
Okay.
479-9239.
609-479-9239.
Yes.
Okay, and that is the number to get to a representative from
Willingboro Academy Charter School.
Willingboro Academy Charter School. Listen, Nicole, thank you so much for being here today. I have learned so much from you, from our previous guests, about charter schools and what they're really about. I can tell you that with an arts and technology focus, that there should be and there will be a lot of children that are very interested in attending Willingboro charter schools. In addition to that, I will tell you that we are committed from words to action in doing everything we can to helping you all get open and move forward. So thank you for coming, and I wish you the best of luck in your new charter school.
Thank you.
Wow, what an educational session we had today. We talked about charter schools, and we talked about why they are an excellent alternative to private schools or even to the public school system in your local area. From words to action, one of the things that we do is we talk about solutions, we talk about actions, and we give out good information. And today, one of the things I'm so happy about is I'm so happy that we were able to provide good information and we were able to give good action. So let's talk about that for a second. At the end of the day, don't believe the hype. Charter schools are great alternatives for our children. Why are they great alternatives for our children, and why do they work? Why are charter schools all over the country taking off, and why are parents all over the country choosing a charter school education for their children? The first reason is because charter schools are in fact public schools, but they're public schools that meet the needs of their students. They're specific and they're community-based, and they go at the very need of the students. They're not hampered by bureaucratic regulations of what they can and can't do, and hampered by boards that take a year to decide which textbook they can or can't have. They can make local decisions that impact our children, and as quickly as the world is changing, they can change the way that they instruct. That's powerful. Anymore nowadays, if you don't have the ability to turn on a dime and to make quick decisions about anything, whether it's business or whatever it is, then you're going to get lost. Charter schools have that capability. So when you start thinking about, how do I want my child educated? I want you to understand, and our guests want to reinforce the fact that your only option is not just the public school in your area. But let me also share this with you. The other option is not eating beans out of the can and drinking water every night and eating bread because you're paying so much for private school that you can't afford anything else. There are alternatives. There was a story in the newspaper a couple of years ago, and I'll never forget the story. The story talked about a parent who wanted so badly for her child to have a great education that she was willing to take on 2 additional jobs and only eat beans every night just so she could have her child educated. That tears at the very heart of me. Charter schools addresses that very issue, and that's why they are a very good thing. So if you're interested in a charter school for your child, take a tour of a local charter school. Pick up the phone and call them. Go in and ask questions. Your child's future depends on it. And if you have more questions on what you can do, and if there are schools in your area, or whether or not they've been authorized, or what their rankings are, what their scores are, or how they're doing, go to www.njcharters.org. They can tell you all about the charter schools in your area. I'm Ken Gordon, and we're taking words to action, and for right now, we're doing the charter thing. Have a great week.